Hey everyone, welcome back to Crypto Cash. Thank you so much again for joining me here. I hope you're having a great day. Let's take a look here at Solana, see what's going on. We can recognize that there is some pretty solid price action in the 210 to 205 range where the price wicked down. So what we're going to do, we're just going to clean up the chart really quick and then obviously talk about best and worst case scenarios here. Bitcoin is, ramping back up from low 86K range to 87. So we got to respect the fact that we could very well see, the price action continue higher for Bitcoin. And if so, we may not see the price pull back for Solana. My expectation is still this $185 to $200 range, and I'll explain why here in a moment. But it does look like we've finished our expansive wave, and there's a good chance that we are potentially on the way back down. Now, again, I like to emphasize the word potentially because there's no guarantees on that. We could absolutely miss the boat if you want to try to, if you're considering a long position, but I more so prefer to wait for longs that never happen. I know it sounds crazy and weird, but in this market right now, things are running, things are taking off, but they're also dropping really hard too. And it's hard to want to just jump into a long position when everything is kind of pulling back. Bitcoin dominance is on the rise, and as that continues to increase, we got to respect the fact that alts are pulling back too. So if we continue upwards of the 61+% for Bitcoin dominance, we will see Solana and other coins, continue to pull back. So let's go ahead and talk about liquidation levels first, and I want to say thanks again to my awesome community members for always liking my videos. Solana community is really cool, so I deeply appreciate you guys and gals so much for just being amazing parts of my life. And if we take a look here at liquidation, there's a chunk of liquidation at this low 203. These are more recent longs that just got in when the price went down to 205. Okay, those you can assume those are high leverage longs considering how close they are to the price action. So some high leverage longs are in profit right now. If you are one of those, I would recommend adjusting your stop loss higher. You never truly know. Buying that kind of dip is pretty risky, but it makes sense too. It's also lower risk in a way because of the fact that it's such a strong support range. There's a lot of confluence between 200 and 210. So it's definitely an area that I'm interested in buying. While I missed the opportunity to get in at 205 because that had happened while I was sleeping, ever since then the price has been kind of going lower with Bitcoin. We got to respect the fact that if that happens and Bitcoin does continue to retrace, we're going to be in a situation where we may want to wait. Now, take a look here really quick. This is my Bitcoin analysis from earlier. Just to clarify, Bitcoin is in its expansive wave 2, likely to pull back to 84.5 or 81.1. Now, again, I say likely to pull back just because that's natural capitulation in situations like these. But more important, 85 to 84K is that heavy concentration of liquidation on the downside. We're closer to that than we are the upside, or I guess you could say we're smack dab in the middle, but we have momentum to the downside. So the likelihood of that happening is greater. We're also still at about 20 billion in Bitcoin liquidation long delta, and that is way too high even still. I mean, 30 billion was outrageous, but 20 is still a lot. Anything over 10, in my personal opinion, is too much. So when you see that start to stack up too high, it's best not to be a late long. I know it kind of sucks if you missed opportunity at 77K for a long up to 90K, but hey, there's going to be plenty more opportunities, folks. Try not to FOMO in. I know a lot of Moon Boys were right for one day of the year yesterday, but at this point, it's best to kind of pump the brakes, relax, and just think a little more logically instead of with your emotional heart. Okay, so take a look here at the daily time frame. What's going on here? Well, everything's going to be pretty bullish, folks. There's no other way around it. So if we kind of zoom in, we can see that the moving averages are kind of hanging out there at the 180 range. They're all moving up. They're all below the price action, generally positive. Okay, so there's no other way around it. We're still very bullish on this coin. So me saying it's going to pull back by a little bit, if that even happens, is just kind of a logical speculation on the way the price action should move. Not because I am dead set on this being like the most amazing coin ever. Okay. The truth is, no matter how awesome a coin is, regardless, most coins will start to or eventually align themselves with Bitcoin. And we're seeing that too with Solana. So we'll look at the smaller time frames to identify the correlation directly. But for right now, we can see 70 is hitting, or RSI is hitting 70. That's generally construed as a take profit sign for your long. Okay, so if you're in a long position, you should have secured profits by now. I'm willing to guess the 4-hour time frame has a similar scenario. Because again, when you get that, that extra push up, you broke through a resistance level, you let it ride. But now that we're coming, like the reality is coming in here, it's starting to set in. You want to make sure you're not in a long position, at least from before. Taking a new long might be a different story, but either way you look at it here, that's generally construed as a sell signal if you already currently have a long in profit. Money flow index is pulling back, stochastic swinging down. A lot of early shifts letting us know that the price action is more likely to pull back than go up. at this exact time. Now, when we look at the 4-hour time frame, that may be a different story, but you can see here the 20-day SMA is still barely maintaining itself as a support. And I say support just to keep it easy to understand. The truth is moving averages are not support levels. They're just kind of areas of consideration to recognize, hey, we're still on the right side of these tracks here. As long as we maintain above the 20, the price action is more likely to go up than down. But with us being close to testing it for the third or fourth time over the last 24 to 48 hours, that doesn't give me a lot of confidence, okay? Having said that, though, there's still a lot of volume flowing into this coin. We can recognize as well that we're still over 50 on the RSI, generally construed as a positive. Money flow index is coming back down, which is very standard. Stochastic and MACD both diverging. So we have this natural pullback that's happening right now, and a lot of it hinges on how well Bitcoin does. Right now, Bitcoin is pushing from 86 to 87K in the last couple of last hour or so. And if that continues, then I think Solana may break out. But if you look at this here, this is not like a strong correlation between Solana and Bitcoin, right? They're both pretty similar, and if you will, Solana's pulling back harder than Bitcoin is. So it leads me to believe we might see a bigger correction if Bitcoin does lose its support in the current range that it's in, okay? So just some things to kind of think about. Once more, Bitcoin dominance on the increase. As that continues to increase, we've got to recognize that some altcoins may continue to suffer. So all that being said here, the 4-hour time frame is still mostly bullish, but we got some potential areas of concern here. So in other words, if you take a look at this red line here, again, I try to highlight red lines as kind of key levels. Once more, when we were talking about this yesterday, I was mentioning that we have to break through this level because we tested it multiple times, and we need to be able to retest that as a support. We retested it, but it's not a support anymore. We broke below, therefore resistance. 212 is a likely resistance range for us. In fact, I forgot to look at our open interest here and see where we're at. Generally speaking, we can see the most amount of open interest at 210. Big surprise, a lot of late longs here at 210. That's somewhat of a support range. So losing 210 today could imply we go down further, all right? Just things you want to kind of look for when the daily candlestick closes. And if you're not sure what I mean by a daily candlestick closing, the daily candlestick closes at 0 GMT every day or 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, depending on the time zone, of course. And at that point, that gives you the best confirmation of where you're at in the overall trend, because a 24-hour candle is much more reliable than a smaller candle as far as like who's controlling what, right? So if we look at the daily time frame, just to clarify, the bears are controlling the session. Right? That just kind of gives you indication. We look at the hourly too, we can recognize as well with our TPO here that we're in a position as well where we're below the local point of control. So today's point of control is 219, we're at 212, therefore the bears are controlling this session, right? That's just kind of what that's telling us. I know it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that out, but those are just kind of visual representations of that. If we take a look at the Ichimoku cloud, this is a concerning factor for us, and this is why we want to wait for confirmation. In other words, the price action starts to break down below the cloud, we'll be able to recognize that the price action is more likely to go down. The conversion line and baseline are intersecting, therefore implying we've lost momentum to the upside. Lagging spans free and clear the downside, telling us you should have closed your long position in profit. All right, so again, I recognize that you could have been greedy yesterday and pretty much bought anything and had profit, but today's not that day. We don't take profit. Sorry, you do take profit. That's the day that we're seeing today, and you don't take a long in the blind. Now, while Solana is still fairly strong compared to the majority of altcoins here today, there's still a larger probability of the price pulling back based on that. Now, take a look at this here. We take a look at Bitcoin and how it's performing right now. We're seeing tentative higher highs, but with Solana, we're seeing lower highs, right? So Solana is creating a descending type of trend. Therefore, I think further pullback would make sense right now, okay? So I'm going to be patient, and I don't fault you if you don't want to be. I get it. But I would say the mid to low 200s would make sense right now, because I'm still expecting Bitcoin to pull back a little bit further. Unless Bitcoin can ramp up past 90K, I don't see Solana going for another push to its 225 high. I don't see that. So just some things to kind of think about here. The more logical explanation here is the price will either range bound itself, continue back up, or it'll continue to establish lower highs and lower lows, and inevitably bounce off 185 for its next and final wave up. Just some food for thought, folks. I hope that makes sense. I described that correctly. Please help grow the channel. Again, don't forget to like the video, comment below. Yesterday we had a phenomenal amount of views, almost 2,000. That's pretty awesome for you know, my my typical viewership. So thanks again. And it was all because of people like you that liked the video and or commented below. Join us over with Bitunix too, folks. 60K prize pool soon to unlock. We got tremendous amount of volume flowing into this exchange, and mainly because it's just an awesome no KYC, no VPN required exchange. You get some really cool prize pool and benefits if you want to join up here today. Last but not least, join us over on Twitter, Telegram, and Discord, and feel free to follow along and enable alerts and all that wonderful stuff. We'll look forward to seeing the next one. Hope you have a great rest of your day. Take care of yourself. Bye-bye.